It just communicates beauty and goodness and truth and humanity in such a powerful, good, hopeful way.
Hello, and welcome to the Arts of Language podcast with Andrew Poudois, founder of the Institute for Excellence in Writing, or as many like to say, IEW. My name is Julie Walker, and I'm honored to serve Andrew and IEW as the Chief Marketing Officer. Our goal is to equip teachers and teaching parents with methods and materials which will aid them in training their students to become confident and competent communicators and thinkers. So do I still get to say Merry Christmas to you, Andrew?
Absolutely, because Christmas begins on December the 25th.
Right,
It doesn't end on the 25th.
Right. And of course, here at IEW, we are doing our 12 days of Christmas giving, and we start on the 26th.
Right, because we don't want to be open on the 25th.
No.
But, if people aren't aware of that, it's not too late.
No, absolutely
It's not too late. You can join in the 12 days festivities and get the free gifts every day, all the way to the end. So I'm sure you'll have a big link to that one.
Yep.
But it is after the actual feast day of Christmas. Trivia for listeners is the Mary in Merry Christmas originally was that it was the feast of Mary and Christ. It was the Mass of Mary and Christ.
I see.
So that's where we get it. Then, of course, the spelling changed.
It's become Mary, yes.
But to truly celebrate, you use 12 days, and it's therefore not too late to talk about
Christmas movies.
Christmas movies. Why have a podcast on movies?
Well, isn't it a form of literature?
Absolutely. In fact, some of the best movies, of course, came from and are about literature.
Yes, exactly.
So I made my list, you made your list,
Yep.
And you've got like the top 10 according to Julie Walker.
And I kind of cheated because I have a tie for number 8.
Oh, okay. Well, that's fine.
Yeah.
I have an added one that's not on your list. So
okay.
This will be the top 10 plus.
Right. So I thought we could just go back and forth, starting with my number 10, and then when we get up to your number 6, because that's what you have is your top 6.
Oh, okay.
Does that sound good?
Sure.
Okay, so my number 10 is How the Grinch Stole Christmas. Now, of course, that's been redone many times, but I just go back to the classic animated version with, I don't even know who the performer is, but he's got that incredible baritone voice and great narration, kind of with a little bit of English accent. Dr. Seuss, How the Grinch Stole Christmas animated version.
Well, and anything with Dr. Seuss is a vocabulary delight.
Yes.
For children.
Yes.
And, I haven't actually watched that for a very, very, very long time. So I don't have a memory of it. I remember there was a newer version, and I didn't like it at all. I didn't even like the preview, so never watched it. But I'll trust you if you actually think this should be in the top 10 because, of course, Dr. Seuss is timeless.
And it's one of those that's verbatim to the book.
Yeah.
Other than the song, of course, Dr. Seuss did not write the song, but it's a good one.
We like movies that are true to the books.
Yeah, exactly.
Mostly. Almost always.
Yes.
Yeah.
So my number 9 is Little Drummer Boy.
Oh, tell me about that.
Well, that's a claymation type 1. Again, this is very old, but it's the story that is based on the song, the Little Drummer Boy song.
I grew up with that song because my mother, being a voice teacher, had to have a Christmas recital. And so all the Christmas music had to be performed and sung by her piano and voice students.
Yep.
And so, yes, pa-rum-pa-pum-pum.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
Exactly.
That's deep in my semi-subconscious. Right there along with Amal and the Night Visitors, which is like a, kind of a musical-ish thing. It was like a musical without a plot, I think.
Okay.
Anyway.
Is that a Christmas movie?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. I don't know.
Because Amal And the Night Visitors. Who are the Night Visitors? The Kings, maybe?
Right, yeah. When we have the kings in The Little Drummer Boy,
Yeah.
and you meet the three kings, which the Bible doesn't actually say three kings, but three gifts. So.
Right. Well, and they weren't really even at the birth of Christ either. It was a couple of years
later.
later. But,
we digress.
In the course of 2,000 years, I guess a 2-year difference is a pretty microscopic percentage difference. But yeah, people always like to point that out.
Yes.
The manger scenes are historically inaccurate.
Yes, exactly. So my number 8, again, this was the one that had a tie. I love those old claymation ones. So Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer made the list, my top 10 list. But I also love Miracle on 34th Street.
It's 4th, isn't it?
I think it's 4th.
I think it's 34th. I wrote down Miracle on 34th.
Oh, you did? Okay, good.
Yeah.
So,
and there's an old version.
That's
black
the
and
one I
white.
like. Yep.
Yeah. And then there's a newer version, which is actually not bad. It's, for
but
people who don't like really old black and white movies.
But is Mrs. Walker in the new version?
I can't remember.
Well, that's one of the reasons I like it, because it's Mrs. Walker. That's
the
me.
one, though. This is interesting because I think it's this movie where the Santa Claus at one department store,
yes.
if they don't have it, he sends them over to some other department store.
Gimbels and Macy's.
And at first the manager is so upset,
Yep.
like you're sending our customers somewhere else. But then everybody appreciates that level of uninterested, unselfless service.
Right.
So it comes out good in the end.
Yep.
But I think that's been a metaphor for business practice for many people.
We sometimes do that here when
Yeah.
people are frustrated with how long things take for shipping. You can buy most of our products on Amazon, and if you have Prime, you can get it in a couple days. So,
Well, yeah, but what if we don't have the thing they want? We tell them where to get it, right?
well, but the lovely thing about, I'm sorry, just going to plug this, the lovely thing about when you buy things, IEW products, you're never going to find it on sale, because that way we don't have to worry about customers missing the sale. It's always the great price of what you see.
That's true. But we do place the successful shopping experience of our customer very, very high.
Yes, we do. Absolutely.
We just don't give discounts.
We just don't discount. Right, exactly. Sometimes free shipping, and of course, 12 Days of Christmas.
12 Days of Christmas
We've
right
got
now.
a free shipping code you can use. Exactly. Okay, I have a number 6. Do you have a number 6?
Well, what is your number 6? Maybe
My
it will over...
number 6 is The Christmas Carol with Patrick Stewart. There's so many versions of Christmas Carol.
Yes.
But my favorite is the Patrick Stewart version.
I would agree. He an actor like that with his incredible background and Shakespearean training and, too many people tend to lock him into the,
Star Trek
Picard role. But no, that is a very good one. My favorite Scrooge, though, is actually the musical.
Oh, okay.
And I don't know why. Maybe that was the one we watched. The ending is a little bit on the scary side. I remember being a little kid, 8, 9, 10 years old, and getting ready for the scary, fiery pit under the grave at the end.
Oh, right, yeah.
But those songs, just stuck with me through my whole childhood. Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Well, I love that Christmas Carol, the movie, is a musical. There's a musical version of it because the Patrick Stewart one is not a musical.
No. The musical version is called Scrooge.
Oh, okay.
I believe.
Okay.
Yeah. So, but it's such a good story. You could go ahead and watch both.
Yep.
And compare them and understand them. But I don't know, there's something about musicals that I have come to, I guess, appreciate even more and in my older life than I did in my younger life. Maybe it's because I love the idea of life being a poetic experience.
Yes.
And there's something about when the story includes a song that you just, I think about, I grew up with My Fair Lady, Sound of Music.
Your mother, of course, was musical. And you, of course, were a musician at a very young age. Yeah, my husband didn't have that experience growing up, and so he kind of scorns musicals.
Yeah.
So I have to convince him every year, come on, we have to watch this traditional, not a Christmas movie, but we watch it every Christmas, and that will be my number 4.
So here's a slightly funny story. When I was running my little preschool in Bozeman many, many years ago, I think it was over Christmas that we watched some musicals, probably one of these, Scrooge or Sound of Music or something. And I got the idea that we should try to make our life more like a musical. Like, what if there was a soundtrack? And we didn't have, that wasn't the days where you could walk around with earbuds and, iPods. But I told my kids that one day a week we were going to have opera day. And if they wanted to talk to me, they had to sing whatever they wanted to say. So it was great. All these little, 4, 5, 6-year-olds trying to sing. Can I go to the bathroom? And then I would sing back,
Yeah.
So Scrooge the musical. Okay, what else is on your list now?
So my number 5 is Charlie Brown Christmas.
Oh, yes. Those of us who grew up with the seasonal Snoopy movies. The Charlie Brown the Great Pumpkin was one.
Couldn't watch it on demand. You had to wait for 9 o'clock or 8 o'clock Central Time on CBS or whatever channel it was on with all the commercials. But ironically, all the commercials. But of course, Charlie Brown Christmas really cuts through the nonsense of so many of the Christmas traditions and say this is what Christmas is really about, which is why I love that.
I'm not really a person who likes watching animated movies or shows. I sometimes do just for the grandchildren, but I managed to avoid almost all the Disney animated movies by simply just being gone when they were watching them. But there's something about the Charlie Brown that it never has bothered me in the same way that I'm kind of allergic to cartoons.
Well, and they include a lot of music in that too. Linus and Lucy, Schroeder's great piano piece.
Yes,
and then I love the scene where Lucy is wanting Schroeder to play Jingle Bells, and he's doing this elaborate variation of Jingle Bells on the piano. And she goes, "No, Jingle Bells," and he finally plays it with one. Yeah, it was pretty funny.
Well, I'm going to put that one on a list of ones to watch when the grandchildren are visiting.
Great, okay.
Because I haven't thought of that recently, but it definitely qualifies.
Yep. So what's your number 5?
Well, my number 5 would probably be It's a Wonderful Life, although it should probably be higher than that.
That's my number 2.
That's your number 2. Okay, let's go with Joyeux Noël.
Oh.
This is a lesser-known movie. It's in a foreign language.
Oh, okay.
And it was nominated for Academy Award Best Foreign Language Movie. But it's that story. I'm sure you've heard the story of how the soldiers in the trenches in World War I on Christmas Eve came out of the trenches, and the enemies that were basically trying to kill each other had a Christmas celebration together, and they exchanged things that they had got from families, cake, cigarettes. They played soccer in the snow.
Oh, wow.
But the reason that story strikes me so powerfully is, even when there's a war and there's good guys and bad guys and you're trying to kill each other, at the end, they're all guys. They're all just people.
Right.
And people have a desire to celebrate. And you just think, what if the whole world could just have Christmas Eve and celebrate the fact that we're all blessed. We're blessed to be alive. We're blessed to have each other, and that fighting each other over ideologies, fighting each other over territory, fighting each other, whatever wars have ever been about, is not who we are at our very core.
Right. Yep.
So that's I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing it right. It's Joyeux.
Well, I'm writing that one down.
So I'm assuming it's Joyeux Noël. I don't speak French, but I remember seeing that and kind of weeping at moments.
Wow.
Very powerful. Very well done.
Well, my number 4 is, I've been told, is not a Christmas movie, but this in my family, this with my boys, we would decorate the Christmas tree. I'd make my world famous Christmas special recipe chili.
Tree
meal.
Decorating meal was chili. Okay, well.
And then we would watch, while we're decorating the tree and eating chili, we would watch the movie The Sound of Music.
Oh, well, I am now pretty much convinced that that is the greatest movie that has ever been made, ever, in the entire history of movie making.
Yeah.
I don't know how many times I've seen it. Many, many dozens of times.
Yep.
And I just rewatched it. It was a few months ago. I had sick grandchildren, so that's a great excuse.
Yeah,
And
it's a long movie.
it's a long movie, but I realized not just is it well done in so many ways, it's just good to the core.
Yeah.
It just communicates beauty and goodness and truth and humanity in such a powerful, good, hopeful way. So, I'd say I think we watch it at least once a year when all the kids are home, and maybe more. And I know I watched it at least once a year when we had to wait for it to come on television.
Exactly.
But I think it should qualify as a Christmas movie.
Well, there's brown paper packages tied up with string. That's the only thing I can think of that, snowflakes that fall on my nose and eyelashes. But anyway, there's not a whole lot of Christmas in there other than just our family tradition that we would watch that at Christmas time.
Yeah. Well, I'll second your vote for number 4, Christmas music, but it stays number 1, all best movie ever made ever by anyone in my books.
So what's on your list for number 4?
Well, it's not actually the movie that I liked as much as the book.
Okay.
So the movie is Christmas with the Cranks.
Ah, yes.
But the book is John Grisham's novel, Skipping Christmas.
I think that is just a hilarious short novel.
It's short and it is hilarious, and I cannot read the end of it without crying. I mean, I try to read it to someone every year or two. And I remember the first year I read it, I kind of liked John Grisham back then. I really like John Grisham.
Yep.
He's a master storyteller. But I read it. I was in that mode where I was always looking for a book I could read to the family. So I read it to the whole family. And by the end of it, I mean, we were just profoundly touched.
Yes.
And I don't want to give away the story at all for any of our listeners who haven't read it.
Yep.
But it is well worth
So read the book.
the read aloud. And, you could watch the movie. The problem with the movie is the humor is more banal, more slapstick, more, I don't know if it gets into crude. But it's not the elevated, subtle type of humor that Grisham is capable of in that book. So, but that would be mine. What's next on your list?
So I have one of those classic musicals, and I didn't even really ask my husband about our list. I just picked mine, and this is White Christmas with Danny Kaye and Bing Crosby.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I haven't seen that for many years. Maybe I should put that on the list for kids.
Yeah.
Bing Crosby, I don't think I appreciated him much as a 10, 12, 14-year-old. But now I've seen a few of his movies, and I realize what an incredibly talented actor and singer, and I guess you could throw in dancer.
Yes, of course. And, speaking of dancers, I completely skipped my number 7.
Oh, why'd you do that?
I was so excited to talk about Christmas Carol.
Oh, okay. So what's number 7?
Holiday Inn, Bing Crosby, and Fred Astaire.
Never seen it.
Oh,
never
add
seen
that
it.
to your list of things to watch this Christmas season. So another classic musical.
Holiday Inn?
Holiday Inn, yes. And there's some incredible dancing in that movie.
Is there any connection with the hotel chain?
I don't think so.
Holiday Inn?
No,
I
I think
it predates the...
They're going... Oh, maybe Holiday Inn took their name from this movie.
That's very possible. Yeah.
Yes, but they go to an inn on a holiday and they dance and sing. There you go, Holiday Inn.
All right,
so that's my number 7 and my number 3.
Oh, okay. So now I think we are in agreement about 1 and 2.
Okay.
Because the first one I wrote down, of course, is It's a Wonderful Life.
Uh-huh. Yep, that's my number 2.
And I think this is an extremely good movie to watch regularly, every year.
Yep.
Because it does something that I don't think any other movie does as well as that, which is it juxtaposes this kind of hopelessness that we can feel when everything's going against us and we don't see that our efforts have made any difference in the world and we just want to give up.
Yep.
And, whether we get to the edge of a bridge and jump off or not, but that feeling of hopelessness.
Yep. The movie is so easy to quote, too. So many quotable lines on there.
Yes, yes, no doubt. And then the other thing that I think is so important to contemplate is the consequences of actions that we don't necessarily foresee or anticipate or imagine. And when he sees, the world as it will be without him, it's so transformative. And I think it's just one of those, it's better than therapy, really, because it creates an introspection. And, I often think about, what if I hadn't done this? Or what if I had done that instead of what I did do? What if I hadn't moved to Oklahoma? How would the world be different? How many lives would be changed?
Yes.
There are people who exist today because I moved to Oklahoma.
That's right.
So
several of your grandchildren.
And I do think that a lot of people might argue that should be number one. It was the first one I wrote down.
Well, and there might be a debate about colorized version versus a black and white version. I don't think the color...
Oh, Jimmy Stewart is the only...
Yeah.
That's the only one.
Well, no, right, but they
colorized it afterwards.
And I don't think it changed it significantly. I don't think you need to watch it colorized, but I don't think it's like a crime to watch it colorized. Yeah, Donna Reed and Jimmy Stewart.
Did you know that Jimmy Stewart was a general in the U.S. Army?
Really?
Yes.
Wow.
Lieutenant or brigadier, I can't remember.
Yeah.
But he was like this high-ranking military officer in the reserves.
Yes.
And after the war in the reserves, and then he went on to make some of the greatest movies ever.
Love Jimmy Stewart.
What a man. And he's one of those actors, after you watch the movie, you just love him. You just love him because he connects with you in so many ways. Other Jimmy Stewart movies, Mr. Smith Goes to Washington.
Okay, that's a good one.
That's a really good one.
I think of the Alfred Hitchcock movies that he's done. I think he's done a couple of them. Rear Window, I think. Anyway, there's
Yeah, no, my wife is pretty much allergic to anything bordering on what could possibly be weird or, Hitchcockish.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right. So people are really wanting to know.
Yes. Well, it's actually your pick, but I would agree with you on that.
Okay. The Man Who Invented Christmas.
There we go.
Yeah. It's a new movie.
Yes.
I don't know.
The only new one on our list, really.
Yeah. When I first saw the title, The Man Who Invented Christmas, I thought, well, that is an obnoxious name for anything. Like, didn't Jesus invent Christmas?
Yes, exactly.
Didn't God create Christmas? But the movie has the same title of the book, which came before, but they're entirely different.
Oh, okay. So you've read the book.
Yes. I saw the movie. I was so enamored with the movie that I got the book, and then I realized that it was totally different. So in the movie, it's Charles Dickens.
Yes.
And he's kind of overextended financially. He's got relationship challenges, particularly with his father. He's got a lot of kids. He's super famous, but he needs money. And he comes up with this idea of writing a book about Christmas.
Right.
And the publishers are thinking, nobody's going to buy a book about Christmas. Nobody cares about Christmas. Christmas is nothing. And what I didn't really realize was at that time in Victorian England, there were decades where Christmas was frowned upon by the Anglican Church to be celebrated because it was kind of mushed together with the pagan traditions, winter solstice and some of Druidian stuff and that. And so Christmas was really not celebrated. But then with Queen Victoria marrying Albert and the German tradition of Christmas, it started to come into English society, but it still wasn't a big deal. And so Dickens wanted to write this book about Christmas. And everyone thought, horrible idea, nobody's going to buy it. They wouldn't even fund it. They wouldn't give him an advance. And so he decided that he would somehow fund this himself. And so the movie is a little bit about the book in terms of how did he work through that and get the book into completed version and the risk he took. I mean, he basically risked everything to self-publish 5,000 copies of this book. And it sold out in, I don't remember, days, short period of time.
Well, and of course, his story made our list of the top 10 books. And one of the actors in there also made our list in a different role. Christopher Plummer.
Oh, Christopher
You forgot
Plummer.
that he
That's
was in
right.
there.
And
Oh, my gosh.
He did Scrooge. Oh, man.
So well.
What an incredible job. Now, the fantastical side of the movie, which is really delightful, is him kind of on the personal side wrestling with the story.
Arguing with Scrooge.
Arguing with the characters.
Right.
And the characters would appear, they would come to life in his imagination, and then they would actually be in the scenes with him.
Yes.
And so that was interesting, how he was arguing with the character. And the other thing that I loved was how different experiences he had were portrayed in the movie, and then they came into the story he wrote.
Yep.
And it kind of aligns with that idea that, every idea has to come from somewhere. Mm-hmm. You can't really just produce something from nothing.
You can't get something out of a brain that isn't in there to begin with.
and so there are all these little scenes that you see it and you know the story and that's going to be in the book when he writes it. Mm-hmm. And then one of the funniest parts is at the very end, he reconciles with his father, and his father's going back, and he bumps into this young person, and what's your name? And I think he says, well, Nicholas Nickleby. Mm-hmm. Anyway, so it's like he even got names for his characters, perhaps.
Yes.
It's all speculation.
Yes, of course.
But I think for people who have appreciated the story of Christmas Carol, this movie will just amplify that deep level appreciation for Dickens and his imagination and the struggles that he had.
Yep.
The book is really much more of a history biography. It doesn't include any of this
fantastical
him arguing with Scrooge about, can you really become a good person or not? But I learned so much about, again, how Christmas was not considered worth much interest or effort at that time, and a whole lot about Dickens' life. I don't remember a lot because several years ago since I listened to the book by that title, but I recommend it very, very highly.
Yep. Well, I know our list of top 10, or I don't know what number we actually wound up with, more than 10, because you had some on your list that were not on mine and vice versa.
It was the top 10 plus bonuses.
Plus bonuses, there you go. I know that this list is unique. I know that I've seen lots of lists out there that include movies that I wouldn't recommend necessarily because they're not necessarily in the spirit of Christmas, or they're just kind of a little bit crude. But certainly these family-friendly, literature-enriching, but also entertaining, a little bit of amusement going on there.
Well, and, I think it's very, very valuable for children to have a chance to watch old movies.
Yeah.
They learn to appreciate old movies. I remember talking to one kid, he said, I hate black and white. Mm-hmm. Well, okay, that's just not because there's something intrinsically uninteresting. It's just you're not used to that.
And that kid, you can watch It's a Wonderful Life, the colorized version, and they won't even know it was done in black and white originally.
Although my grandson said to me, 6-8 months ago, black and white movies are better. So I don't know.
There you go. Yep.
Well, that was fun.
Yes.
So enjoy the last, still we have the bulk of it ahead of us. Today's
another 8 days to go. 8?
Yeah. So 8 more days of Christmas joy.
All right. Thank you, Andrew.
Thank you, Julie.
Thanks so much for joining us. If you enjoyed this episode and want to hear more, please subscribe to our podcast in iTunes, Google Podcasts, Stitcher, or Spotify, or just visit us each week at IEW.com/podcasts. Here you can also find show notes and relevant links from today's broadcast. One last thing, would you mind going to iTunes to rate and review our podcast? This really helps other smart, caring listeners like you find us. Thanks so much.